Hi guys and welcome back. Today I am working on the second prompt from Drawtober this year. I am so excited to show you guys this painting. I loved working on it and it was just really fun to be able to work on a new art challenge this year. But first I do have a quick announcement, and that is that the Kickstarter for my Lost and Taken Woods hard enamel pin collection is officially live, so you can go, you can pledge, you can check it out and see what pins are available. I absolutely love every single one of these pins. I just love the process of creating them and thinking about their stories and how they intertwined. So I do have that link down in the description that'll take you over there if you want to go check out the Kickstarter and see what's going on with that. I am so grateful for everyone who so far has already pledged. That has helped us to really boost up how much we have pledged, and the more that we get, the more pins become unlocked. So yes, thank you everybody who's already pledged. But anyways, let's move on to the painting. So I talked about this in a few different places, but I'm doing things a bit different this October. You might have already noticed, but I'm not doing primarily Inktober. I'm actually mostly doing Drawtober this year, because Drawtober is only 6 prompts long for the entire month, which perfectly fits with what I actually want to get out of this year, specifically this October. So yeah, I'm doing that with a few Inktober pieces mixed in, so I can just really focus on getting really crisp, clean line work for those pieces. But anyways, for Drawtober, I actually missed the first prompt. It was for October 1st through the 5th, and the prompt was carvings. I was really excited about that. I have an idea in my head that I really want to try, so I'm hopefully going to get back to that and I'll be able to make up that first prompt. But now we're working on the second prompt, which is Wicked Apothecary. And I definitely struggled with coming up with the right idea for this prompt. It's something that I already love thinking about pieces that would fit really well in this prompt. The idea of an apothecary, so lots of bottles and herbs and potions, and the wicked tilt to that so that you could see it through a different lens. I love that. It's a type of thing that I've certainly put into my pieces many times before, but when it came time to create a piece that specifically fit this theme, I found that I was just really having a hard time getting past that first initial association that I have with it. And it was just a person sitting behind a countertop with a wall behind her that's full of bottles. I've done that idea before and it just felt really stale and uninspiring, and I was just really struggling to move past that concept. So ultimately I decided that I needed to simplify it down. I wanted to really focus on more the core essence of this subject, to find a way to make it just really more graphic and sharp and clean without a lot of focus necessarily on the background details. Now, I love the idea of doing lots of background details, but there are a few prompts coming up that I'm really excited about getting really into the whole setting of the piece and getting those details and that establishing shot down. So I know for a fact I'll be able to get to a point where I can focus on that more during this month. But this one, I got started a little bit late into the prompt, so I wanted it to be something that I could achieve at the quality that I wanted, but still really fit with this feeling that I had for the prompt. So I decided to streamline the idea of Wicked Apothecary down to a couple of very iconic elements, at least for me, what I associate with it. And I came up with a poison bottle and a character, of course, holding it. And the one way that I love to show that something is poisonous is through the imagery of skulls. So I have a character holding a potion bottle full of poison, and as the smoke is rising up out of the bottle, it overlaps over her face and all you can see is her skull. I loved this idea right off the bat. It was really fun to work on, and it ended up being the perfect thing that I needed in that moment, where at the beginning I wanted to be more ambitious, I wanted to have more details, but sometimes the right idea isn't always what you first think it's going to be. That's usually the case for me, is that I usually have a lot of requirements that I've given myself, and then when I really just start breaking down what I actually want to get out of a piece, it ends up being a very different set of parameters that I want to work around. And I tried doing things a little bit different color-wise with this one, which ended up being really rewarding. I decided to do a much more desaturated color palette for this one. So it's mostly grays. Everything, for the most part, except for the bottle and the smoke, is based on gray. And I loved that. I loved how it turned out. It was really enjoyable to work this way. It felt like it had this connection with my Inktober pieces from the last several years where they were entirely grayscale. And yeah, it was nice to be able to work on certain areas where I just had to shift the slight color so that it would be a little bit more purple or a little bit more blue, or I could just go straight with the gray. And yeah, I liked it. I liked the outcome. I like how it feels a little bit more sinister and macabre, and I don't know, it was a nice change of pace, and I think that for sure I'm going to look at incorporating this kind of color palette more in the future for specific pieces that I think will benefit from it. I actually really love pieces that have a lot of desaturated colors or purely gray colors with bright pops of saturated colors as well. So I'd love to explore this a little bit more. And then painting the bottle and the smoke, that was probably my favorite part. I loved watching as I painted that smoke and then added the shadows, the skull, that transparent quality really just came to life. I was really happy with how that effect ended up turning out. But anyways, this area is the area with the most saturation, so it has the purest color, this pure blue with a little bit of green for the shadow. That helps the eye really draw to it. It becomes a focal point, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to feel distinct and separate from the background and the character. I think that it has a certain storytelling element to it where it can be separated like that. But I started off creating a base layer over the background, so not where the skull is, and I just created that ultramarine blue wash again over where just the background layer was. And then I took the shadows that I was going to paint over the smoke and made sure that it continued on top of the skull, and that just allows it to look like the smoke is still one object, it's connecting over it, and just the blue is what it looks like as it overlaps over that gray background color, and then it looks more transparent and light over top of the skull. And this piece actually had a bit of a different process as far as refining it went. Usually I prefer to have the sketch relatively refined, basically as refined as it's going to get before I transfer it over. But when I was working from the sketch, I was just feeling like it just wasn't quite there. I hadn't quite nailed it down right, and I wasn't sure what was missing or what areas needed to be cleaned up. And I don't recommend this. I don't recommend it for myself, but I decided to just move forward and take the opportunity to actually refine it and clean it up more as I was transferring it onto my watercolor paper. And for this specific piece, it actually ended up working really well. I think the reason that it specifically worked well is because it is a more simplified composition. There are only so many working components to it, where if it was, say, a full figure with a background, that might have been a little bit trickier to make sure everything turned out right. But I enjoyed that process. It made the transfer process a little bit more enjoyable because I felt more in the moment and more connected to making sure that it transferred well, and that I was actually thinking through how can I improve this sketch into a more interesting, refined, cleaned version. And I think that helped me get into that mindset for the rest of the painting. So as I worked on the different areas, I tried to focus on how can I refine it more? How can I give it more details that tell more of the story, that makes it feel more like that atmosphere that I want? And yeah, I was happy with that. I think in a lot of cases I tend to get into autopilot where I just create the piece the way that the sketch is, the way that I'm used to painting it, and I hate that. I don't want to approach my artwork that way. And letting certain things be a little bit more up in the air at the beginning was something that actually helped in this specific piece, in this specific situation. And don't forget to check out my Kickstarter to see what enamel pins I have available. There is that link down in the description. And I also have this original painting available at my shop, and I have her available as prints as well. And this piece is called Wicked. But yeah, I love this one. I loved working on it. I was really happy with how it actually ended up turning out. And that is it for today. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.